Hey guys, what's going on? I just wanted to make a follow-up video to my focus video that I came out with a couple days ago. And this is going to deal with how to invest your focus points once you get them. I know it can be pretty overwhelming at first if you're just starting to grind focus, but overall the system really isn't that complicated. And I'm going to show you the path that I would take after having completed the focus tree myself, now that I have a better understanding of what's useful and what isn't. And just as a quick preface, if you don't know how to get focus points, you get them by equipping lenses to your frames and weapons. So if you want focus points in Zenurik, then you need to equip a Zenurik lens to one of your frames or weapons and play with that. I also quickly want to go over how to take points in your designated focus school. So if you go to a school, you will see a focus tree as well as your focus pool up top. Now, you can spend your focus points in two ways. You can either invest them into your nodes or make your pool larger. Your pool affects how many nodes you can have at one time. So if I were to take Phoenix Talons here, you see there's a 4 right below it. That means it's going to remove 4 from my pool. As you can see, it went down from 177 to 173. And the same applies for the rest of the nodes. So if I were to take more nodes, the pool would continue to decrease. And early on, if you don't have a very large pool, it can be hard to take all the points that you want. So you'll have to divide these points between your pool and the nodes on the tree that you want to take. In order to take a node on a tree, you will need to invest focus into that node. So you'll see a little pop-up next to a skill, and when you click on it, it will invest focus into the node for you. The more focus you invest, the more pool the node will drain. Also, if you want to change which focus school you have active, you simply need to mouse over to it and click Make Primary. Any school's nodes that is not primary will not be active. There's an exception to this with the way-bound passives that I'll go into in a bit. But if you change your focus school, you will lose the bonuses from the other school. And you can change between these at any time. Also, you can only activate nodes if they are connected by other active nodes. So if I take Energy Pulse here, I cannot take Lightning Dash without first taking Energizing Dash. There's an exception to this with the Waybound passives. These are passive abilities that you gain from other schools, and you can take them without being connected to other nodes in your current focus tree. So we're going to start out with what I would call the main focus class, which is the Zenurik focus school. And as we go over each school, I'm going to tell you which points I think are useful and which points I think are not. There's going to be a lot of trash, I'm just warning you right now. Many points either have no use in regular gameplay or serve to actively hinder you. So let's start out with the Zenurik focus school, which is the school used by the majority of players. And the reason for that is Energy Pulse and Energizing Dash. These two abilities give you back energy, which is one of the most useful things in Warframe, considering how difficult it can be to gain energy. These are two of the most important focus nodes in the entire game. So if you have limited focus, I would go for these two first, just because they give you back energy. With Energizing Dash, you can use your operator form to dash and create an energy bubble that will, at max rank, give you 5 energy a second for 30 seconds, which means that over time you'll regenerate 150 energy per dash. An Energy Pulse gives you 50% more energy from pickups. Both of these serve to limit energy problems in missions, and for energy-hungry Warframes, these are a godsend. So useful. If you've ever been on a mission and you need energy, these are the two nodes that you want to grab. Other than these two nodes, you also want to pick up Void Siphon and Void Flow. These are the way-bound passive nodes, and what that means is that after you unlock them completely, they can be used on any focus school. So if you unlock the Zenurik ones, you'll be able to use them on Maudrai or any of the other schools, and the same applies to those schools' passives as well. Each school has 2 of these unique way-bound passives with different effects. So these 2 increase operator energy by 90%, which is useful, as well as increasing your operator's energy regeneration by 90%. The way-bound passives make your operator much stronger and are very useful for any sort of operator gameplay. Again, if you're limited on focus, I would suggest you hold off on grabbing these, as they cost far more focus than any of the other nodes. Other than that, I would say Lightning Dash is fairly useful. This is similar to Energizing Dash, where every time you dash, you create a small ball of lightning that is arcs outwards and deals 800 damage to enemies. It costs a little bit extra, so if you're looking to be efficient with your energy costs, I wouldn't say Lightning Dash is particularly useful at high levels, but at low levels, dealing 800 damage to enemies after you dash is fairly useful, but overall not fantastic. Inner Might increases your channeling efficiency by 60%. If you're using this, you should probably ask yourself why you're channeling melee in the first place, because channeling melee is fucking awful. You probably should not be doing it in the normal course of gameplay. Temporal Blast and Voltaic Blast are neat little tricks, but they don't really provide any useful bonuses to gameplay. Transferring to your operator to slow your enemies with Void Blast is ridiculous. If you have time to transfer, then you probably have time to just murder the enemy in the first place. Voltaic Blast simply increases the Void Blast's damage and increases its range a slight amount. If you're using Voltaic Blast, you could probably shoot them with your amp or your Warframe's weapon. Void Static is not only not useful, costs energy to maintain. So this will increase your operator crouch's energy drain. Void Singularity is similar. It essentially vacuums enemies into your operator while you're crouched and increases the energy drain by 2 energy a second. Neither of these are very useful. So, to recap, the useful nodes are Energy Pulse, Energizing Dash, Void Siphon, and Void Flow. Now the next pool I want to talk about is Naramon. Now the reason I'm talking about Naramon second is not because it's particularly useful, but because Affinity Spike is good for farming focus on Adaro if that's what you're choosing to do. It gives you 45% more affinity from enemies, which translates into more focus from those enemies. Mind Step and Mind Sprint are the two waybound passives of Naramon. Increasing your operator's movement speed is not particularly useful, so if you can, avoid taking Mind Step. But Mind Sprint increases the speed of your Void Dash by 120%, which means that your Void Dash actually goes farther. This is very useful for transferring to your operator and dashing around quickly. Other than these, Power Spike is the only other useful node in this focus tree. It allows you to keep your combo counter up while you're not in combat. I'm not going to go over the rest of these abilities because honestly they're just not worth talking about, but I encourage you, if you're curious, to look through each ability and see if you want to use it for yourself. For this, I'm going to take all of the waybound passives, and that's it. Next up, I want to talk about Maudrai. This is the focus school for Eidolon hunters. If you're planning to do Eidolons, which you should be if you're planning to do focus, because it is the most efficient way to farm focus, 100%, no question, you should be investing into this school. There are a couple reasons for this. The main reason is Void Strike. Void Strike destroys Eidolon shields. What this ability does is, while you're crouched, it builds up a damage multiplier that continues to stack so long as you're crouched. This can be up to 50, 60, 70 times, as high as you want. So much so that you're able to one-shot Eidolon shields in some cases. And at max rank, it gives you the increased damage for the next 8 attacks. This not only applies to your operator, but also your Warframe as well. So during the Eidolon fight, if you have a high stack, you can also one-shot the Eidolon itself. Now, if you're planning to use Void Strike, you should not be putting more than 1 point into Void Radiance. And the reason for that is it drains additional energy when you leave Void mode with each rank. So as you can see here, if I were to rank this up, it would consume from 25 up to 30 on leaving Void mode. We don't want that to happen during the Eidolon fight. Because of that, I've only unlocked the node. I cannot take Void Strike without taking Void Radiance. So I have to have this node active, which means that I want my consumption to be as low as possible. Phoenix Talons itself is pretty good because it increases your physical damage by 25%. The same goes with Phoenix Spirit. Both these nodes increase your overall damage, which is good for the Eidolon fight. Other than these nodes, Inner Gaze and Eternal Gaze are the way-bound passives. You also want to be investing in these to make your operator more powerful. Eternal Gaze increases your amp energy regeneration, and Inner Gaze increases your energy pool for your amp. Other than that, there's Blazing Dash and Meteoric Dash, which leaves a trail of fire and deals a moderate amount of damage behind you as you dash. These are okay, but I wouldn't recommend rushing to unlock them. Flame Blast and Rising Blast are useless. And again, I'm going to take all of the waybound passives because I have enough points in my focus. Unairu is another Eidolon focus school. The reason for that is Unairu Wisp. This ability has a 100% chance to spawn a wisp when you hit an enemy with a Void Blast. If you or a teammate picks up this wisp, it will increase you or the teammate's operator damage by 100% for 12 seconds. In the Eidolon fight, this is often used to increase the Void Strike user's damage against the Eidolon shields. So what you should be taking for this school is Void Spines, Magnetic Blast, and Unairu Wisp. Magnetic Blast is fairly useless, and Void Spines, while it sounds good as enemies are taking 100% damage that they deal to you, is in practice pretty awful, as you do not return very much damage to the enemies. Stone Skin is pretty useful because it increases your armor for both your operator and your warframe. And once again, Basilisk Scales and Basilisk Gaze are the way bounds of this school, and you should be taking them if you have the points. Gaze increases the radius of Void Blast, and Scales increases the armor for your operator. Scales is very good for giving your operator effective health, especially when paired with Stone Skin. Void Shadow and Void Chrysalis are also useful abilities, however they do add an additional 4 energy a second drain each to your Void mode. Sundering Dash and Crippling Dash are also fairly decent. Crippling Dash reduces enemy damage by 50%, and Sundering Dash will reduce armor by 70%. These 4 points aren't necessary, but they are nice later on. And last but not least, all of the Waybound passives. And finally, Vazarin. This is probably my least favorite focus school. For the most part, I wouldn't use this class unless you're really into supporting your teammates. Mending Unity does increase your affinity radius by 25 meters, which is nice for abilities that are based on the affinity radius, like Trinity's Bless. Void Regen and Void Aegis both increase operator survivability in Void mode, which is pretty unnecessary considering almost nothing damages you while you're in Void mode. Protective Dash and Sonic Dash are okay, but not really useful in practical circumstances. Guardian Shell is actually useless, and if you're giving allies shields with Guardian Blast, you're probably not helping them very much anyways. And once again, Enduring Tides and Rejuvenating Tides are the waybounds of this school, and you should be taking them if possible. Mending Soul makes your next 4 revives instantaneous, which is fine for the next 4 revives, and then the 5th one, you just have to start reviving, which is fine unless your team goes down more than 4 times and then you're back to regular revives. Like I said, I don't play Vazarin very much, so I'm not going to be a very big advocate of it, but if you enjoy playing with this school, then by all means feel free to use it. But that's it for the focus schools, so I hope that if you had any questions about certain schools or which nodes to start out with, you have a better idea of what's good and what you should be focusing on. And I know I only briefly went over some abilities, so if you have any more detailed questions about the focus schools, feel free to leave a comment. And if you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you leave a like and subscribe for future content.